What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for coming back to another episode of Scattered Brilliancy. My name is Travis, and I'm here to do another review. Tonight, I'm gonna be doing a quick review of "Unbreak My Heart," the Toni Braxton story that premiered tonight on Lifetime. So, "Unbreak My Heart," the Toni Braxton story was about a 2 hour and some change movie, and if I'm not mistaken, it was based on the book, the autobiography that Toni Braxton put out, maybe within like the last 3 years or so. So, kind of leading up to this movie, people weren't really sure what to expect. Lifetime's track record with biopics or biopics, whichever it is, hasn't been that great. CC, the Whitney Houston movie, CC, the Aaliyah movie. So people were kind of skeptical of how it was really going to work out. However, the difference between the Toni Braxton movie and all those other movies was Toni Braxton is, number one, still alive, and number two, actually had a hand in it, and number three, it's based off a book that she authorized, and I think she wrote it with someone. So that alone didn't make me feel like the movie was going to be bad or that the movie was going to have any issues, because she kind of put her stamp of approval on it. And that's how I thought it was going to be. And watching the movie, it was very obvious that Toni Braxton definitely had her hand in it, which is good. For number one, they had the musical clearances so that her actual music and voice could be used in the movie. In the Whitney movie, Deborah Cox had to sing for Whitney, and I didn't watch the Aaliyah movie, so I can't tell you how that went. But as far as this movie, Toni Braxton's actual music was used. You can tell that Toni went back in the studio and re-recorded some things to try to make it feel more authentic. Not only was her voice used, Babyface's voice was used as well for the songs that required, his voice. So that helped the movie. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a professional movie critic. These are all just my opinions, and I'm not here to offend any other Toni Braxton fans. Overall, I would say that the movie was okay. It wasn't bad, but I would not say that it was great. I would just say it was an okay movie. It was good, but it wasn't anything that I want to watch again. The thing with the movies like this, the thing with the movies like this where it's about a person and it's only done in 2 hours, it's 20 years of stuff that's happened that you have to cram into 2 hours. And not even 2 hours, because you have all of those commercials. So I do think, though, with the time that they had and with all the events that have taken place in Toni Braxton's life, because I knew, because I watched Braxton Family Values, I knew that Toni has been through a lot. So I think with knowing everything that she's been through, that they did a good job of putting everything in it. But at the same time, I don't like they tried to cram everything in it. But I do know that everything that happened is important to her story and not her struggle, but her story, I guess. We'll just stick with her story. It was all important, from talking about dealing with an autistic child to finding out about the lupus to the bankruptcies. All of that made Toni Braxton who she is today, and all of it is relevant to who she is. So I understand its importance in being in the movie. But like I said, it was okay. The biggest thing that I did not like was the pace of the movie. I didn't like that, we spent 3 to 4 minutes on this particular thing. We're moving on to this, and we're moving on to this, and we're moving on to that. I prefer for movies to kind of take their time, but I know you can't take your time in a 20-year span. I would have liked it better if it was like a series, and maybe it was 3 movies or 6 episodes or something. I don't know. I mean, I think she deserves more than the 2 hours for that, but I get it, money, and I'm sounding stuffed up. Lord, please don't let me be getting a cold. All right, so the cast. I want to say these names just so I can make sure I give people their shine. They're supposed to get it. So the movie was starring Lex Scott Davis. I hope that's the young lady's name who played Toni Braxton. Let me scroll. Hold on. Yeah. Newcomer Lex Scott Davis. She portrayed Toni. I think she's a beautiful woman, but I think that I think I critique a little bit too much. I would have loved it if she would have just dropped her voice down a little bit more when she was speaking her lines. Because what I didn't mention was that not only did we have Toni's music, we also had Toni narrating, which was great, and it helped it along. So going from how low Toni's voice is and the timbre of her voice, and it being that low octave, to going to Lex's voice, which is definitely higher pitched, I just wish it would have been a little more similar to Toni's voice, but that's very minor. I thought acting wise though, I think she did a good job portraying all the different levels and layers that she had to do within this 2 hour span. I think she did a good job with that. As far as casting for the rest of the people in the movie, I'm not going to go over who played who. You can look that up on Lifetime's channel website if you want to. And I don't know if I said it, but it came on Lifetime. Probably said it, but I think that Babyface was an excellent casted role. That's not right. I think the casting of Babyface was excellent. There we go. I think the casting of her husband, Carrie, was excellent. I think the casting of her mother was awesome. I think the casting, features-wise and looks-wise, of her father was very good as well. Like I said, I watched Braxton Family Values, so I'm down 2 minutes. I watched Braxton Family Values, so I know what these people look like, and so I had a certain expectation for what I thought their characters should look like, and I thought that those 4 characters probably looked the most close to the actual human beings that they're portraying. But I thought the mother did a really good job of portraying Toni Braxton's mother. I'm gonna have to wrap this up because my camera's flashing. I got 2 minutes. But overall, I think the movie was, like I said, it was okay. If I had to give it a rating, I would give it maybe like I maybe give it like a B plus, something like that. I wouldn't give it a C because it wasn't average, but I would give it a B plus. Did I have anything else that I need to say? Visually, it was nice. Audio wise, it was nice. There weren't anything. There wasn't anything in the movie that made me feel like really y'all did that. They did put little not cues, but references to the Braxton family show. So things that I remember them saying on the reality show, they were saying in the movie, which was cool. But the ones at the end, I didn't really like how those were put into there. But and why did every time Tawanda's character pop up on the screen, she had those pigtails? I didn't understand that. At the end of the movie, her sons portrayed her son, and at the end of the movie, she portrayed herself, and that's how the movie ended. And my camera's about to go out. So thank you so much for watching this episode of Scattered Brilliancy. Make sure you like, rate, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about the Toni Braxton Unbreak My Heart movie on Lifetime. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace.